All right, let's keep solving equations. So this is going to be level 1 circle, multi-step equations and equations with variables on both sides. So you've kind of done that already, but each time we're taking it a little bit further. So as you notice, some of these things cannot be solved with insolve. So we're going to have to learn how to solve these equations without insolve. So let's zoom in a little bit here. So this first one, you'll notice that we have the variable x, and there are multiple x's. The second one, we notice we just have one variable here, and it's n. Here, we have one variable, but you notice we have quite a few negative signs and some distribution that's going to have to happen here. Again, one variable, but some distribution with this negative sign. And then this one here where we have one variable again, but distribution and several things that are going to go on. So I'm going to do 3 of the 5 of these examples, and then your job will be to do the other 2 and check them in the key that your teacher has, okay? And once you have those good, then you can go do your demonstrate, okay? So that's going to be true for both of these. So we have 2 parts to this lesson. Okay, this one and this one. So I'm going to do a couple of the examples. Your job is to go do the other ones, and then that will let you know that you're ready to go do your practice. Okay? Okie dokes. So let's start with this one. See if we know how to handle when we have 2 of the same number or letter, excuse me. So we have 2 x's. We always want to start on the side that has our letter if possible. If we have our letter on both sides, well then we'll handle it a little bit differently. So we want to see if we can combine like terms. These are considered like terms because they both have the letter x. So we have a negative 4x minus 6x. So if we combine those together, it's going to give us negative 10x. Okay, if you're not super great at that kind of stuff, you can always type negative 4 minus 6 into your calculator, and it will give you negative 10. Just don't forget to put your x back on it. Okay. So we have negative 20 over here. Now our goal is to get this x by itself. So as you know, we're doing reverse Pemdas. So what we want to look at here is this says negative 10 times x. I know that it's times because they're touching, and touching is times. So there's no symbol in between them, so I know that it's multiplication. So the opposite of multiply is to divide. Remember, we use a fraction bar to show division. So negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1. Okay, it's not 0, it's 1. But 1 times x is just x. So that's good. Negative 20 divided by negative 10. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 20 divided by 10 is 2. So we would say that x equals 2. Pretty straightforward, huh? I'm going to let you try number 2 as one of the ones you do by yourself. So put a star next to that one. All right, I'm going to come and do number 3. So, here we go. I'm looking for my letter. My letter is U. Now, I didn't do this last time, but I frequently like to highlight the letter that I'm solving. Kind of helps me stay focused. My goal is to get that letter all by itself. So I have this negative 4 out in front. I have a couple options here. I can distribute the negative 4 inside the parentheses, or I know that this means negative 4 times everything that's inside of here. So I could do the opposite of times and divide both sides by negative 4, and that's going to keep me from having to distribute. Sometimes distributing is going to help you. You're going to have to think about it. But in this case, it's not really going to help me. So I'm going to go ahead and move it on over to the other side. What's going to happen here is I have everything in the parentheses left, but now that it has nothing in front, I can actually drop those parentheses, okay? Because the parentheses were protecting it from that negative 4. And so 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. Kind of cool, huh? It saves you a step. Again, my goal is to get U by itself, and we're using reverse Pemdas. So we're going to start with addition and subtraction. I see a subtraction sign here, so I'm going to do the opposite of subtract 3, and I'm going to add 3. Remember, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So these 3 cancel, and whoops, these cancel as well. Does that mean I made a mistake? No, negative 3 minus 3 is technically 0. This is technically 0 as well. But because I have other things over here that I'm going to write, I don't usually write that 0. So therefore, I don't really need it. But on this side, there's nothing else. So I have to keep the zeros there. Otherwise, it would just be blank. And we can't have it be blank. My goal has not changed. I still need to get u by itself. And right now, u is being multiplied by negative 6. So I'm going to divide by negative 6. 0 divided by negative 6 is just 0. So u equals 0. It's okay to get a 0. That happens sometimes. Okay. I'm going to let you do number 4 by yourself. All right. You have a negative out here. Just a quick reminder, that's the same as a negative 1. So you can distribute it, or you could maybe divide it like we did over here with our negative 4. I'll let you choose. All right. All right, we're going to do number 5 together. It's got several steps, so we're going to go through this. Draw our line. We only have one letter here, so we're going to solve for b. I could start by dividing by negative 2, but I noticed that I have 2 like terms over here. So I actually want to go ahead and add those first. So I want to take 19 plus 34, and I have 53. So if I can simplify, I want to always do that first. Okay. Now I am going to go ahead and divide by negative 2. Just like we did last time. Well, 53 divided by negative 2 does not give me a whole number. So for right now, I'm just going to hold on to it. Okay? And then over here, I get to drop my parentheses 1 minus 7b. And again, my goal is still to get b by itself. So I see this subtraction sign, but that subtraction sign goes with the 7. And I'm not ready to use the 7 because I have to get rid of this 1 first. So if there's not a symbol, I always put a little plus sign. It kind of helps me out. So I have a positive 1 or a plus 1. So the opposite of plus 1 would be 2 minus 1. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, well, that's what calculators are for. Okay. So I'm going to have, so you can do control divide to get a fraction, 53 over negative 2. And then I have to arrow over. So see this button right here? Arrow over till my blinky line is really big. And I'm going to type minus 1. Make sure you do minus 1 and not negative 1. Minus is the black button. We're subtracting 1. And we get negative 55 over 2. Okay. So we have negative 55 over 2 equals negative 7b. My goal has not changed. Hold on, I'm scrolling my page up. Don't freak out. All right, I'm still trying to get b by itself. Right now, b has a negative 7 multiplied to it. So I'm going to divide by negative 7. And again, you're like, oh my gosh! Don't be like that. Grab your handy-dandy calculator. We're going to take control divide to get our fraction. Negative 55 over 2. Arrow over till our blinky line's real big. Divide by negative 7. Okay, enter. 55 over 14. So b equals 55 over 14. And you're like, Miss, that's ugly. You right. You right. Math is like that sometimes. When you get to algebra 2, it's going to be like that a lot. So here's your taste. Okay, there's that one. So your job is to do number 2 and number 4 by yourself. Okay, so put a star next to those. Don't forget to go do those. We're going to flip to the next page, and there's only 4 problems. Okay, we're just going to do a couple of these, and then you can do the others. So what we have here specifically is we have variables on both sides. Okay, and in a couple of them we have multiple variables, so we have to pay attention to what it is we're actually supposed to solve for. Second, and there it goes. Okay, so I will do number 1 and number 4. Oops, so you don't put a thing next to those. I'm going to do those. That means you're going to do 2 and 3. All right. Okay, so number 1, that's me. I have the letter A, and what I notice is I have 2 A's. Yikes. Okay. So my goal for me personally, and every mathematician does it a little bit differently, but I prefer to get all my letters together on one side, and then I really start my solving process. Sometimes that's easier to do than others. So sometimes you just kind of have to work your way through the problem. So I have a 1A and a negative 5A. I can move the 1 over here with the 5, and then all my A's are going to be negative, which is totally fine. I can handle it. But since I have the option, I'm going to go ahead and move these over. So instead of subtracting 5A, I'm going to add 5A. And that's going to make all my A's positive. Some people care about that. Some people don't. If I can choose, I do that. So don't forget this is the 1A. So 1A and 5A is 6A. All right. Now it's a pretty chill little problem. Not a lot to it. So I'm going to subtract 5. Yikes, we got another 0. That's okay. We're going to divide by 6, and A equals 0. That's totally okay. Okay. So let's think through this one. You're going to do it yourself, but let's think about it first. Okay. In this case, dividing by negative 2 might be more difficult because you have 2 components. So you might want to go ahead and distribute this one. Okay. Because I have 2 parts, and they would both have to be divided by negative 2. So this one might be better to distribute, and then start moving your pieces. Okay, there's your hint. Okay. Now, the thing with 3 and 4 is that we have multiple letters, so we're going to have to pay attention. This one wants me to solve for P, but notice I have P's and I have an M, which means my answer, when I write my answer over here, there's going to be an M in my answer. It's not, well, I mean, I guess it could go away, but I don't think it will. So my goal has not changed. I still want to get all of my letters together. Okay, so in this case, I am going to, again, move my letters this way. That way I have less things that I have to move around because I can leave all the other stuff over here. So I'm going to subtract 5P. Now, yes, this is going to give me a negative, which I didn't want before, but like I said, sometimes it works well and sometimes it doesn't. So 1 minus 5 is negative 4P minus 1 equals 3M minus 8. Okay. My goal has not changed. I'm still trying to get P by itself. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Remember, we always do addition and subtraction first. Multiplication and division second, because we're following opposite Pemdas. All right, negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. All right, now I'm going to divide by 4. And there's a couple ways that you can do this. Depends on how far you like to think ahead. If you like strategy games where you are like chess and you have to think 2 or 3 moves ahead, you might like this. If you don't, then just pick away and stick with it, but know that it could always look somewhere else. I need to divide by negative 4. Now I have the option to make one giant divide symbol with a 4 under it, or 2 separate divide symbols with a 4 under it. It really doesn't matter, okay? If you're in a multiple choice test, you kind of need to look at how are your answers. Do all the answers have one big divide sign, like a giant fraction, or is everything separate? And that's how you'll decide. When we do this with our linear equations later, we're going to do 2 separate divide signs. So I'm going to go and do that right now. When we get into literal equations here, more often than not, we do one big divide symbol instead of 2 small ones. But just to kind of show you, divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. Okay. These two are 1. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. All right, and then I'm going to try to simplify if I can. Well, 3 over 4 doesn't simplify, so I'm going to have negative 3 over 4m. It doesn't really matter where that negative sign goes, so it can go in the top or the bottom. This simplifies, but only a little bit. Negative divided by negative is a positive 7 over 4. Okay. So that would be our answer. And you're like, Miss, that is not pretty. That's okay. That's okay. That is our answer. P equals all that stuff. All right, so you're going to have a similar experience on number 4. Your job is to do number 2. Oh, did I say 2 and 3? Too bad. I guess you're doing 2 and 4 now. Let's think through this one before you get started. You probably on this one again, because you have 2 parts, you probably want to go ahead and distribute and then start moving your pieces around, okay? So again, you do these 2 and check them in the key, and that'll help you know that you're ready. So you had 4 problems to do by yourself, 2 from the last one and 2 from this one. Check them out and make sure you're good to go. If you have questions, ask your teacher. We're here to help you. We in no way want you to sit here and stare at your paper for 30 minutes, okay? Raise your hand, get some help. All right? You guys are awesome. Go forth and conquer.